This is Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company. I am your host, Vito Chirco, alongside my usual sidekick and partner in crime. Dom, you love hearing those words. My brother, Dom Chirco. Dom, what's going on today?
Nothing much. Pleasure to be on again.
And John Macaroon from Doc and Jock is also on board with us, always alongside us here for the recording of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Co. We have a busy, jam-packed show today, don't we, for the third ever edition of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Co. And Dom, to start off, Dave D was dismissed last week. I was on for the Breaking News podcast with Doc and everything from Doc and Jock, and we talked about it, broke it down. Now we're going to do more of that here and dissect it further with you, Dom. So, first off, his tenure as Tigers GM and president. How would you grade it overall-wise, Dom? I
would give it an A-. Title or no title, he was success here. Although he finished with the record of with the 484 win-loss percentage, taking over in 2002 as a team president, the Tigers were in complete disarray at that time. Randy Smith and Phil Gardner were fired early in that season. He took over. They lost 106 games in 2002 and 119 in 2003. And more than 90 each of the next two seasons, all due to the wreckage that Randy Smith created. Think about the guys he was able to get in free agency. 2006, you had Pudge coming, Mags, Kenny Rogers. JV and Grandy were drafted and rose through the system. Signed Scherzer. The trade, they got Ajax. They developed Avila and Porcello. Trading for Miggy in his prime without giving up a lot. Not a lot of talent there. At that time, they thought Maben was going to be something special.
Yeah.
He had a home run off Clemens. The 2006 pennant, he won as GM, he won 4 straight division titles beginning in 2011. 3 straight ALCS appearances and an AL pennant in 2012. But there was always one thing that haunted his teams, and that was the bullpen.
Why did he never rectify that issue? That's my problem.
Think about it. They never lived the standard.
I think, you know what, Dom, really quick, 1 year they were good enough in the bullpen. Well, and that's the year of 2013, don't you think? Benoit and Smiley back-to-back in the pen. They were good enough at the back end of games in that year and could have gotten it done, in my opinion.
Their best WAR, wins above replacement as a bullpen, was in 2006. They had a 3.8 WAR.
That's funny. All the way back then, huh?
And that's not very good. I mean, that's not very high when you think about it. Not the best, it's about average. In 2014, this year, or last year actually, was their worst. They finished 30th in that category among
What was 2013, Dom? Do you have that stat for us too? Because I'm wondering, because I think it wasn't too bad. But you know what? The rest of the pen outside of Smiley and Benoit might not have been that great, so maybe it brought it down.
2013, it was minus 0.1 WAR.
Well, that's probably because of Valverde being around for too long, too. But once they got rid of him, Dom, wouldn't you say that bullpen got a lot better? I mean, Benoit was a good 9th inning guy, and then Smiley a good 8th inning guy.
Benoit was really the only success out of all the guys that came. He lasted two years, 3 full seasons, 2011 to 2013.
And maybe they should have kept him.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe.
He's still been solid since then. Maybe not as good and he's older, but a veteran arm. You need a guy like that at the back end of games who was consistent enough to get it done as a setup man, and then even as a closer in 2013 down the stretch until that postseason against the Bo Sox. But that was, I think, the luck of the Sox and being a team of destiny, the Sox, too, that postseason. Down.
Before we go more in depth about the bullpen, a few tidbits here. You never lived to standard the bullpen, but questionable move, letting Max go, trading Fister, Verlander's massive extension he got.
But let me ask you this, Don. When JV got that large extension, nobody thought it would be maybe great, but people thought it was a good extension, right? Because he was so good before that extension. Well, he was worth it, deserving of it. You don't think so at all?
No one's worth that much. No one's worth that much. I don't think Giancarlo Stanton, you can argue, is worth the $200+ million extension he got for the Marlins. Because what happens is the Tigers had a big payroll, but it started to squeeze once you sign guys like your star players are that big of an extension.
So you think it was an albatross of a contract then and there when they signed JV to that deal?
A smart team like the White Sox, what they did with Chris Sale is they didn't give him as much money, but they gave him years. They gave him 5 years.
But wasn't JV more accomplished by the time that he got that contract extension?
He was
coming off of a Cy Young and MVP, right?
Year, yeah.
Yeah, so remember that. Chris Sale hasn't won that before.
You should negotiate. As far as the team should negotiate a team-friendly contract, one that he should accept being a part of the team that he was drafted by. I think a lot of it is selfishness. I think what probably happened, maybe have happened, is he thought that he was getting a raw deal maybe by not getting enough money, so he asked for more money, and the Tigers obliged.
Well, you know what, was team-friendly big time for JV, but I think he would have gotten that on the open market, and that's the thing. The current economics and market for pitchers, right, on the open market, I think is astronomically high. It shouldn't be as high as it is, but the current market...
And yeah, you're right. You have to
it's all about that.
You have to pay the best pitcher in the market.
Yeah,
their due.
It's about the market price, right?
Amount, yeah, but I mean, he set the price
for everybody else that followed.
Yeah,
you're saying that he could have been signed to a lower contract for less years, because really the length is the problem. It doesn't matter if you give a guy $20 million over 3-4 years. But when you give it to him over 6, 7, 8 years, that's a larger issue than for a ball club going forward. As it is now for the Tigers with Miguel Cabrera, who's been hurt now, hampered by injuries in his 30s, early 30s, but still, going forward, he might not be worth that albatross of a contract either. Even though he's the greatest slugger of the decade, of his generation, maybe you could say, and maybe the best Tigers slugger as well of all time. Outside of Hank Greenberg and Ty Cobb, guys like that. But go on, Dom, about Dave D then, summing everything up here.
You got to remember the heist for Peralta and Carlos Guillen, how they got those guys. Another issue was the 9-year, $216 million contract to Prince Fielder.
But then he fleeced the Rangers, right?
He fleeced the Rangers by getting Kinsler. They're still paying $30 million for him through 2018, 2019. They'll still be paying Prince about $30 million. Yeah, they salvaged that by picking up Kinsler. We mentioned the bullpen. Really, Benoit was the only success there, but altogether, I'd have to give this an A-.
And then the best maybe
just
Tigers draft picks were Miller and Maven, guys like that, JV obviously, Porcello, but really not a ton of great draft picks either in the first round, right? Maybe deeper in the rounds, I think he did well. And picking up guys like JD Martinez,
well, you gotta remember,
who really Alavila picked up, though, last year, too.
Granderson was Smith's guy.
He was actually. And you mentioned that. Smith
drafted Granderson and Zamaya.
Smith wasn't horrible, maybe towards the end of his tenure as GM in drafting. Now, in making personnel moves outside of drafting.
He
didn't do anything.
The Juan Gonzalez debacle.
But realistically, who did they give up? They didn't give up a ton. I mean, they gave up a lot of players, like 8 players, 7 players. But the thing is, they gave up Francisco Cordero. I guess Cordero was the best guy that they gave up among the pieces in that deal for Juan Gone, who was gone after 1 year.
Yeah, 1 year.
That was horrible. And he was good, but he would fake injuries. He wanted out of here from day one.
It was funny.
It was funny, wasn't it? Because he didn't want to be in Motown. And who would blame him with how bad the ball club was? But you know what? It never really bottomed out the team until 03. Or 02, I guess. 03, 04, 05. And then 06 hit, and the team resurrected itself. And that was because of also a great managerial hire. A guy that I love from his time as skipper of the Tigers, Jim Leyland. He's the man. For me, the best manager that I've seen. Obviously, I've only been alive since 93, by the way. 22 years old. But for me, best manager of all time. Because that's the only guy that I've seen win games here positively in a large amount. But I guess you could consider Ausmus. Last year, he won 90 games, I believe. But still, I mean, Ausmus is nothing compared to Jim Leyland. And I don't think anybody, Dom, I know you like the White Sox more, like Ozzie Guillen more, perhaps, because he won a title there in Chi-Town in 05. But Leyland is hard to replicate, right? Oh, yeah. His antics, his mannerisms, and all that.
Well, with what he did with Pittsburgh, how he handled Bonds in Pittsburgh, his days in Miami, just everything he did. He brought the cultures together. I think he did a good job of that with guys, Latin American culture, like Miggy, Dominican culture. He brought everyone was together. The utility players had a part. Ryan Rayburn had a good part in the team at the time. Don Kelly, guys like that who elevated their games somehow when Leyland was here.
He managed the clubhouse very well, right? In a very high manner, I think. And I think the team succeeded because of that, and he brought along with them a winning culture, like you said. Starting in 06, he went off, remember, on the team because he thought they weren't trying hard enough. He thought there was more talent on the roster. And he was right in 06. 195 games. Made it all the way to the World Series. Probably could have had a better effort in the series. And that's the one complaint for me about Dombrowski and Leyland, not winning at all. And Leyland's club's never really having that great effort or energy level in the World Series. Maybe the team was tired out and the pitching made mistakes, throwing errors in 06 specifically. And JV wasn't good enough. The timely hitting wasn't there at times. And big money guys like Prince and Cabby weren't always on their game in the series, too, 2012 specifically. Yep. So I guess, you know what, Dombrowski, to sum it up, Dom, regardless of all that, he put the talent on the field to succeed. The team didn't get it done at times, right?
Yeah,
like 2013 is the best example for me of where the team didn't get it done when it was good enough to get the job done, in my opinion.
And note here, it's kind of different to think that 90% of the roster, the lineup, the starting pitching was consistently well drawn by Dombrowski, but 10% of the roster was consistently poor. He was consistently poor at putting together, and that was the bullpen.
So really, he crossed his T's, dotted his I's consistently. He really did most of that effectively.
Not enough maintenance.
But not enough maintenance with the pen, especially. And the thing is, maybe with the lack of a deep farm system, too, it didn't help out. But remember, with the farm system, he made trades when he had to upgrade the big league ball club. So he traded the prospects and made those guys look better. Yeah. Even like a Jacob Turner, who was a top prospect at the time. He traded him when he had to, or saw the writing on the wall, traded him, got a high ceiling of return for him with the Marlins, and got Anibal Sanchez and Omar Infante. Sanchez has been very good until now.
He's fleeced some teams with that, trading his top prospects who aren't, as far as if you look at Major League all of Major League Baseball, they really weren't even top 100 guys. I know Turner was at one point, but guys he got...
Made a lot of guys look good, like Rob Brantley in that Marlins deal, too.
Who else? Mike Ribello. You got Florida to bite on that backup catcher.
Yeah. Burke Badenhop, guys like that. All those like middle tier guys or lower tier guys that were not in the top 100 in the Tigers farm system. He made it look good he got something in return. He traded them for good quality major league pieces, and the Tigers were highly successful because of it. And now, do you agree with this sentiment that I'm about to express to you? That Dombrowski was effective, and very effective at times, but not great. So effective, but not great. That's something that I expressed to Doc on Doc and Jock's Detroit Sports podcast a week ago during the Breaking News podcast when we heard about Dombrowski being dismissed. What do you think about that sentiment? Being effective, Dave D was in his tenure, but not great.
Yeah, I agree. I think he was good enough. The team was good enough to win during his tenure. They should have won one of the years. You mentioned 2013, losing to Boston in the ALCS. That was the year they should have won. They had the best. It wasn't their best bullpen year. 2006 was their best bullpen year, but they had the most reliable bullpen arm that had the longest tenure as a Tiger was Benoit, and Benoit gave up that home run. Looking back at that pitch he threw as a hanging changeup to Big Papi, he throws it a little bit, about 2 feet to the right of him. Big Papi probably would have struck him out swinging on a changeup. So.
Tigers would have gone up 2-0 in that series going back home to Comerica. They would have won that series. Come on. And the Pythagorean record, remember that year from 2013 was 99 and whatever. I think they should have won more games based on how they played. Their runs scored and runs allowed in 2013.
Yeah, the run differential was like
2013 was the best one.
What you see out of the first place teams.
And the best team in the
American League or the best team in the National League. So yeah, they based on run differential, but run differential doesn't show you splits like bullpen, ERA, stuff like that. It doesn't show you everything. But with that being said, they should have won and they should have beaten the Red Sox.
And we're going to talk about the best team in the American League this year. Who is that favorite, right, to win the AL pennant? We'll talk about it later in today's podcast. But first, Iglesias and McCann going at it, right in the dugout. That shoving incident. Iglesias didn't hustle enough to get to a ball right in the hole at short. McCann let him hear about it. And I guess he's always been that kind of fiery competitor, letting even veterans who are older than him hear about when they're not trying hard enough in the field. Now, what did you think about what happened, though, on Friday night against the Bo Sox when all that went down in the dugout? And Ausmus just kind of allowing it to happen, not doing anything about it. What do you think, Dom, about all that?
I'm not a fan of it as far as letting that happen in the dugout. No one was really there to back any of them up. You had players backing players up, but the coaches just let them just tussle it out for themselves. I didn't think that was right. I thought Ausmus should have stepped in and done something there or had like you didn't hear about a team meeting afterwards or anything. It was just left to dry, and they both talked. McCann and Iglesias talked to the media. It really didn't say too much, just that it happens in baseball. Things like this happens. It was Iglesias said it was his instincts speaking to him, shoving McCann, let him to shove McCann. So as far as that goes, I think Ausmus and the coaching staff did a poor job in addressing that.
And Iglesias didn't apologize for his antics, for what he did to McCann.
Yeah, they're both unapologetic.
Yep. McCann, I think, wants to, spark the team right now. He's trying all that he can. He's a good player. McCann can. Yes. He can spark maybe something. Maybe his batting. He's done that this year all right in that platoon. And, starting to play a lot more because Avila's playing first, because of the injury to Cabby and whatnot. He's hit good enough, right, Dom, to be the starter next year, McCann. So I think he has that spark, that energy level, and the hitting ability to do it next year as a starter. Maybe not on a full-time basis, but even more going into next year than he has this season so far.
Absolutely. He's been the top rookie catcher in the American League.
Is that hard for you to say, Dom, that a Tigers young player, a rookie, has been that good? Because I know a lot of rookies really haven't come up through the Tigers farm system and been that great right away, such as Castellanos, as recent as last year.
It's not hard for me to say. I think you always find the needle in the haystack. You always find that gem, per se. Castellanos was a top prospect. He was actually well thought of as a top 50 prospect at one point.
More than McCann.
On majors. More than McCann.
Yeah.
So McCann's been the guy that's overachieved a little bit right now. But I think if you're doing good at the major league level, like he's doing his rookie year, he can build off this, cut down on his strikeouts, improve against righties, and you could see a guy that can stay here for a long time.
Now, how about Daddy, Al Avila now running the ball club with Alex Avila? Will he bring back Alex, his son, next year? What do you think about that, Tom? Do they need Alex Avila? I think, they don't necessarily need him, but it wouldn't be a bad thing to bring him back, right?
There's one
veteran presence, on-base percentage. Two things right there for me.
That's what I was just going to say. On base percentage, he's always up there and on base. You have guys that are like that, but his batting average, balls in play is deplorable. And a lot of his other offensive statistics are deplorable. But what he brings to the table, how he handles the pitching staff, I wouldn't mind him being a backup to McCann at some point, or next year, or just a platoon guy maybe at first. You spell Miguel Cabrera.
Talking about first base, Miguel Cabrera.
Sometimes if you
sorry, I was busy flexing over here, so I'm sorry. I was losing concentration about the conversation. But he can do that now, right? Avila can. Yeah. We've seen that this year. He's made a nice play.
He was
into
actually
the
nifty
stands.
at first. He's been nifty at first so far.
Yeah, agreed. And Avila's a good veteran presence, Tom, to sum it up. I think a good clubhouse guy. He's not going to go over the top and over the edge and get
He'll be cheap on the market. So
cheap?
He won't.
What do you think, Dom? 2 years, like $5 million? That's what I've been talking about for Avila. Maybe, I mean...
You can probably get him for 3.5.
You think so? Yeah. I'm saying like 2 years, $5 million total, actually. So 2.5 per season. Maybe more. Maybe he gets $3 million per year. But I don't see much more. I don't see him topping $5 million per year, obviously.
Or, you could pay him just $1.5 million or something for 2 years.
I think 2 years is a contract that he'll get, Dom, honestly.
He's got a lot. I would be surprised if he would take less amount of money to come here for sure, especially if the team is in position to win.
He's got his daddy in the front office and protecting him, right? Which he said he gave some good points, didn't he, last week about it's not Little League baseball. He's not going to put him at the cleanup spot just because he loves him because of the fact that he's his son. It's not going to be that easy, right? It's not going to be nepotism, right, for Alex Avila with the Tigers. And it shouldn't be. He's not good enough. But as a backup, why not, right? And he's a good framer, game manager for pitchers, right? He knows how to run a pitching staff. McCann, can he do that full time? That's the question, really, the verdict that's still out there that has to be decided about McCann. Is he good enough to frame pitches, to manage a pitching staff and all that? And managing pitching staff really is the biggest deal for me.
It's too early to judge because he's only a rookie. And I think the offseason, the training the catchers go through, when pitchers and catchers, they report early, he could be that guy next year, fill in every day for the Tigers as starting catcher.
If he works with the pitching staff more to get more developed towards that, right?
I think framing is something that can be picked up by virtue of better perseverance and more
just game studying, like game film, right?
Studying what the pitchers like, what they want, what they see in the pitcher, where do they locate their pitches. I think more it's a feel for the game. It's with experience and repetition.
It seems like McCann is already a better hitter than Ausmus was in his career and might be better suited to be a manager than Brad Ausmus because Ausmus never shows any emotion, does he? He does, actually. I'll give him that much, okay? He does. But he's no Jim Leland. Nobody ever will be. But the thing is, has Ausmus at this point down lost the clubhouse? Because I think he has. The Price incident earlier, the JV incident, it seems like has Ausmus's back right now. But why wouldn't he? He lets Verlander do whatever he wants. I would love Ausmus too and kiss his behind, right? Because he's done everything for JV to succeed, I guess, or to get him out there and still try to look like the dominant ace that he used to be, that he no longer is. So for you, that question, has he lost the clubhouse down? Because I think he has. And this incident last week or this past Friday night really, I think, was the cherry on the top, maybe for me.
Yeah, I think it's been lost since the golf outing, reported the golf outing with Gene Lamont.
Remember, I forgot about that. About Gene Lamont talking about how the clubhouse was what? In disarray. Correct? Disarray was the adjective used. And maybe it is, right? Ausmus, I don't think is that good clubhouse presence that can really right the ship when times are tough like right now.
He reminds me a lot of Bo Porter in that. Not personality-wise, but a lot of his decisions don't make any sense, I guess. He puts in guys where he doesn't... I don't know if he looks at splits too often, but he keeps guys in way too long. You see Blaine Hardy... Saturday night against Boston, he was losing his effectiveness, and he kept pitching him. You had Big Poppy, he had an RBI against him. He kept pitching the guy, wouldn't take him out. It was a predominantly left-handedness, the lineup of Boston there. So I can see why, but Blaine Hardy, he hasn't been extended. I know he's a long reliever.
And he's been good, right? I mean,
he's been good
as a lefty specialist.
But he was slipping a little bit. You could have brought in, Wilson wasn't available. We didn't know at that point. Albuquerque didn't see the mound. He didn't warm up.
Kind of like the playoffs last year, and he should have been used, huh?
I liked his decision for Rondon to close the game out. I liked that decision. He has stuff. He has the arm. He has the velocity to become a closer. I like that decision, but I don't know if he. And last night was another example. First inning, Matt Boyd was pitching, and man on first or man on second. I think it was Lorenzo Cain was on second, and 1 out. First base was open. Kendrys Morales was up, who has his average with runners in scoring position is high.
Can't believe how good it is. Second in RBIs, huh?
And he's 80 RBIs.
How did that happen to Kendrys Morales, who nobody wanted in the offseason? And people thought that was a horrible acquisition, right, at one point.
What I'm going to get to is that instead of walking him to face the lefty and Hosmer, whom Boyd struck out, Ausmus lets Boyd, who was struggling in the inning, he couldn't get his fastball was not missing hitters. Then he hangs a changeup to Morales, and Morales pokes it to left field, and Kane scores. A decision like that, it's a decision where you have to think that I need to put this guy on because I have a lefty coming up. It should be more of like, what's the rational move to make? And I would have him pitch against a lefty there and look for a double play ball too, because then the double play could be intact with a runner on first and second. You can twist a double play. To me, that was a bad decision.
Inept decision-making at times, right? And he relies upon the Ivy Leaguer mentality, though. He's an Ivy Leaguer, went to Dartmouth, right? He's smart enough to where he doesn't need the splits. He has the memory bank, right?
I guess.
The brains to figure everything out. Well, that hasn't really worked out for him this year.
Didn't he say in his opening presser for the Tigers that he was an analytics guy and he was all in for that?
But now he's not.
But now all of a sudden
he said all of it to get the job, I think, to convince Dombrowski to hire him. And look at Dombrowski gets fired because of Ausmus. And his mishandling of this, that. And it's not only that. We know about Dombrowski, what happened this year with the lack of a bullpen and lack of depth. But anyways, Ausmus we're talking about here. He's a Dartmouth grad. I mean, come on. He's a men of men. I don't know. He's not really. We've really figured that out. He's not the analytical guy, sabermetric-oriented guy that we thought he would be when he was hired. And that's why the Tigers hired him, going in a different direction than Leland. Well, he's Leland reincarnated without all the fieriness and like the knack for knowing what to do in those big time situations with the pen. Where Leland, he made his mistakes. We know that. But he was a veteran. He knew what he was doing most of the time without the splits. And when he had to, I think he went to that stuff like in the postseason, when he had to change up the lineup, right, to adjust here and adjust there on the fly. He did, Leland. He was willing to do that. Osmus is very, very stubborn. Very, very stubborn. And he's a young guy. I could see, Leland when he was stubborn.
Now maybe,
he's an older guy.
Maybe the Tigers, their management or whatever, their personnel was talking about just letting guys go through their struggles, maybe. They're young guys. So maybe that had something to do with it. But
you think management has told them you have to deal with this because this is a lost year, we're going for next year?
Or let guys, just show me innings for these guys. I want innings out of these guys no matter what's happening. I think maybe that could be the case going forward.
Okay.
It might have influenced him.
Because there's nothing to lose now, really.
Yeah, there's nothing to lose, so that's why he could have, like last night, he pitched to Morales, I guess.
Well, maybe he thought, too, because we're the Tigers, we beat up all the AL Central opponents anyways.
Yeah,
we beat the Royals in recent memory.
They had the second best record still against AL Central opponents.
That's incredible, isn't it? But the rest of the league, rest of MLB, they're horrible against, really. Under 500 by how many games? 15 to 20?
Yeah.
15, something like that. Whatever it is. I don't do math. Don't have to crunch numbers here to know that Ausmus and the Tigers aren't good against the teams outside of the division. But the Royals are this top dog who they've beaten, Dom, so many times now. They won the last series against the Royals. Can they win this series? I mean, they already lost to Cueto last night. Matt Boyd was on the mound, wasn't great. But he rebounded, remember, too. And you have to leave these guys in, give them a longer leash to learn for next year, because Boyd will be a part of that rotation next year, along with Norris, who we're also going to talk about in just a minute from now. But this series against the Royals, can they win this series, Dom, at this point?
Yeah, it's possible. But the Royals are really good at home. They feed off the crowd. They're first when they score first. Their lineup is they have a lot of pick-me-ups as far as guys that it's a team that has a lot of continuity. They have a lot of camaraderie. It's a team that it will be tough to beat in this series. I say the Royals win 2 out of 3.
Then the Tigers play the Astros, right, at Minute Maid Park in Houston this weekend. 3 games set. What's going to happen in that series, Dom? Tigers, can they win at least 1 or win 2 out of 3? What do you think?
Yeah, they can win 1. I didn't look at the matchups going in, but I think they can win 1 game there. Houston doesn't have the best lineup. They don't have great on base guys. I expect the Tigers to maybe have more success in Houston than they will in Kansas City.
And really quick before we go into Daniel Norris and Matt Boyd and Fulmer, these prospects that the Tigers have acquired right this past deadline. Talk to me about Gorzolani being up with the big league ball club right now. Why the heck is he back up?
Well,
I don't get it. I mean, I know you can't always use Hardy, and Kroll's been horrible too, and he was optioned. But why not option or just designate for assignment once again?
Green.
Gorzolani, just get rid of him completely. See ya. Say see ya to him. Why can't we do that to Gorzolani?
Well, he was.
He was designated for assignment.
He was already DFA'd. What happened was he cleared waivers, and he didn't want to get released because a player can conditionally grant his own release at that point. He wanted to stick it out. They gave him an assignment at AAA, and
Was he even any better? I don't even know if he was better in AAA because he's been horrible this year. We thought he could be a good lefty specialist.
He was a little bit better. I think he had his ERA was in the 3s at AAA, so he was a little better.
Is he relying upon Gorzelani instead of Kroll right now when choosing the two? Because they've both been horrible this year, right? I would say so. But Kroll's younger. Is that why he's using Gorzelani more right now in these tougher, high leverage situations instead of using Kroll, who's been sent down since because of struggles?
Yeah, the reason why he was set down, he was brought up, is because it's just a matter of pick and choose. When you go with the hot hand and the cold hand, you're going to choose the hot hand, and the hot hand was Gorzelani in AAA. Cold hand was Kroll for the Tigers. So that was an easy decision for the team to give Gorzelani one last shot, have him come up, and see what he can do.
And he can't do anything. He's proven that, right? Time in, time out. Time in, time again.
He's proven it. Now they're going to see if there's been a reclamation project.
We hope he can be that. As a Tigers fan, I hope that he can be, but I'm not going to bank on that. I'm doubting it. Next year now, lefty specialist. Can they rely upon Blaine Hardy to be that guy consistently next year? Or do they go out and acquire a veteran arm like a Matt Thornton, who we've talked about numerous times now, it seems like, on this podcast since we started?
Yeah, they could go after a veteran guy like you said. They could trade for a guy, potentially. There's Sean Doolittle will be a guy that teams will be looking at in the winter meetings. Lefty reliever can bring it, young arm. I could see a guy where a veteran guy that's cheap or a guy they trade for. I don't see Hardy being anything less or anything more than a long reliever.
Okay, so not really a true lefty specialist who can face the likes of David Ortiz and guys like that.
Well, he gave what you saw on Saturday, the 2-strike pitch. He left it out in the middle base hit.
Big Papi has the Tigers' number, right? I mean, that's true. There's no doubt about that.
He has a lot of teams' number. He thrives he has a 359 batting average or so with bases loaded. He thrives. He loves that moment. He's a clutch, one of the most clutch athletes in the majors of this decade.
Yeah, professional sports history, right? David Ortiz is among the best of the best. We can say that much.
Sports, yep.
Now, let's do the prospect roundup now, the minor league roundup, just a little bit, looking at Fulmer too. But first, the prospects that the Tigers have gotten, who are at the major league level right now for the Tigers in their rotation, specifically Norris and Matt Boyd. First, looking at Daniel Norris, Dom, what have you seen from him that you really like, and what have you seen from him that you don't really like? Give us that breakdown really quick here, Dom. Who's been all right in 2 starts. Bad in his second one, though. Rough outing.
Yeah, what I liked is he attacked the hitters in Baltimore. In Baltimore, he used his 4-seam fastball less, 30%. His sinker was used more. He got more ground balls in that game, I believe. 23-0 his last start. His changeup he used more against Baltimore. His slider was about the same, and his curve was about the same. He's 1-1 with a 5.06 ERA and 10.2 innings pitched. He's given up 13 hits, 6 runs, 6 earned, 2 home runs. His ERA plus with the Tigers so far is a low 81. His fielding independent pitching is a 4.32, and his whip is 1.3. Something I think he's been better at is the walks. He's not issued as many walks. He's shown a better knack for the strike zone until last week against Boston on Friday, he threw a lot of balls and he walked a lot of batters there. His strikeout to walk ratio is 8. His WAR has gone down for the Tigers at 0.0. Yeah, so he's been good. Against Baltimore, 10 ground balls he gave up. What happened was the Boston threw more lefties out there in the second game, and he had his batting average against lefties so far is 344, much better against righties at 265, and I think that threw him off, seeing all those lefties in the lineup.
And then you mentioned his command, which has been really impressive so far. Only 1 walk permitted in 2 outings for the Tigers.
Yes, his command has been a lot better. What I didn't like last game was he didn't use his sinker effectively. He threw his fastball way too much. Because he got behind in the count, he had to go to his fastball a little bit more, and he couldn't execute on his breaking pitches because he had to throw his fastball.
And now Matt Boyd, Dom, who wasn't too sharp against the Royals, we know that. But last Wednesday night, a lot of fly-outs. We know that.
16
that he allowed.
fly-outs. Yep.
16 fly-outs. You counted it. You wanted to see how bad he could be or how lucky he got. So you're saying he got lucky based on that? No. On the fact that he allowed 16 fly ball outs. Now, those could have been home runs, maybe some of the deeper ones. So give me your analysis of that first start and of his second one last night.
The first start, he threw a lot of fastballs. He was effective because he didn't throw as many pitches. The hitters were swinging It's a first opponent he's faced. The Royals never seen him before, haven't seen him pitch. The only video you really get is the outing he had against the Blue Jays, and who knows if that was even looked at by a lot of the hitters who look at video. He used a lot of his fastballs. Hitters were swinging late in the count and trying to work the count a little bit more. He got somewhat lucky with the fly balls, but a lot of it had to do, he had a sneaky fastball. He's threw a lot harder than I thought he could throw. 93, 94 he touched.
That's a good sign, the velocity factor, which Norris really doesn't possess as much as maybe I thought he would be. Can throw it hard, but he's been dialing down a little bit to locate more, and he's shown better command, I think, as a result of that fact, so far, right, in his 2 outings with the Tykes.
Yeah, his command's been better. What you want to see him do more is use his off-speed pitches early and often.
So now specifically, who's going to be better the rest of the way in 2015? You think Boyd or Norris?
I'd have to go with Boyd. I think Boyd, the problem with Norris is he has a lot of pitches in his repertoire, and there'll be times where he'll get frustrated out there throwing. He tries to get a feel for the pitches he has. His four seam, he'll use that a lot, and I think sometimes it'll run into trouble. Throwing a lot of pitches that's not the best thing. With Boyd, he throws a fastball, changeup, slider. He can get more lucky as far as not throwing as many pitches and using. He's a fly ball pitcher, but he's using in Chirco Park. That's where he'll have success there because fly ball pitchers go to die there.
The balls aren't leaving in deep center, especially, right? 420, I think it is, to deep center
field.
To straight center. So Boyd will be all right. Norris can be all right.
A little bit better control than Norris.
Okay, so you're saying Boyd has a good chance of being something this year because of pitching at home as well. That helps his case. And helps out Norris as well, obviously.
Yeah, both of them, yep.
Yeah, but you're saying Norris has that deeper pitch selection too, right? To pick
and
from?
Sometimes gets him in trouble. And I think he'll have to adjust to lefties. Lefties are hitting 344 against him.
That's a high rate. It's not good enough to get it done as a top-of-the-line starter, right?
So he'll have to fix some things, but that's something that could be mechanics, release point. I think it can be worked with. So I think right now, Boyd, he'll give up a lot of hits, but if he pitches to contact, a lot of it will work out for itself, and he'll be fine.
And Tigers have a better defense,
4 or 5
right?
Starter, yeah.
As well. That he has a better defense playing behind him now than the Tigers used to have, when they had other guys, pitching. So I think right now Boyd benefits from that. And the deep dimensions, right, in the outfield of Chirco Park.
Yeah.
And a good outfield defensively. Even J.D. Martinez, not too shabby out there, in the corner outfield. No. So moving on now to Fulmer Down, the top prospect now for the Tigers, in my opinion, among the pitchers in the farm system. He's been lights out in Double-A Erie, right? This scoreless streak now that he has going for him. Can he keep it going? And how good has he truly been facing the competition, which isn't too, stiff in the Double-A league? So tell me about Fulmer Down. What have you seen from him?
Yeah, well, look at he's had a good year, so he's faced good teams along the way. I'll say that 8-2 with the 1.64.
It deserves some cred, huh?
Yeah, it does.
Some street cred, yeah.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
His 2 starts here with Erie, the Seawolves, in Erie, Pennsylvania, both of them I think were home games. Portland, they're 41-74, the first team he faced against, and he had 6 strikeouts there. 88 pitches, 88 pitches, 65, 88 pitches, 88 strikes, 98 pitches, strike thrower, a lot of ground balls, both games, 10 ground balls against Portland and 9 against Harrisburg Senators. Fly balls there. He's been really good. Righties are better against him in slugging and OPS, but yeah, he's been really good. He's mixing in his pitches. His fastball's lively, 93, 94, good movement. So he's been very good. You can't
take too much away from him, huh? But it hasn't been stiff competition, right? That's what you wanted to note, I think, too, in this conversation about Fulmer.
Harrisburg doesn't have a 300 hitter. I know Portland has one 300 hitter, Marco Hernandez sitting 328, but they also have 2 Mendoza line hitters below the Mendoza line. So
that tells you Fulmer's lucked out based on the competition that he's go up against, but he's still been solid and mightily solid, right? Outside of just his starts in Double-A Erie, too.
If you're assessing just Erie, wait, because he's the competition he's faced. Both those teams are way under 500. Like I said, Portland's 41-74.
It's a small sample size, right, for Fulmer.
Harrisburg's 56-59.
Not very good squads, right, in Double-A at that level of competition.
Look at his whip. His whip is very good. 0.789. It's under 1.
Okay.
He's not walking. Guys aren't getting on base easily, no matter how you put it. 5.0 hits per 9. His strikeout to walk ratio is a little bit concerning as far as his ability to get guys out at the major league level. This is something I would look at closely because his strikeout to walk is only 3.67. That might be inducive to a more tough time with major league hitters. Hitters must see what he's throwing.
So those two teams that he's faced in Double A Erie, right, have been a combined under 500 by how many games? A combined how many games under 500? By a ton, right? I mean,
40,
what was the first team, Dom? What did you say?
The Portland Sea Dogs, the Boston Red Sox Double A affiliate, they're 41-74.
So really big time under 500. But that's how it is when you call up a lot of guys or you have them playing at Triple A or at lower levels of their minor league affiliates.
Harrisburg and Portland are together 36 games under 500.
That's not good, huh?
No.
No. I would say 10 games under 500 isn't very good. So 30 games plus, not very good. Okay, so we know that about Fulmer now, about what he's faced. Who's going to be the best pitcher between Boyd, you think, and Fulmer going forward? Because we know Norris has the best potential, right? The highest upside. But how about Boyd now and Fulmer, Dom? What's your take on that?
They're a lot alike. Success at the minor league level for both of them is very good. 8-9 wins. 8-9 wins each for both of them. Yes. Boyd was 9-2, and Fulmer was 8-2 in the minor league level. Fulmer, interesting split. Younger batters are hitting 292 against him. Older batters are hitting only 206. So you see a lot of the younger batters you look at and you see guys that have the potential to make it to the majors more than the older batters. So that's another iffy sign there for Fulmer.
There are good guys for the future for the Tigers to have, maybe to flip in a deal for somebody else, right, at the major league level in 2016. And they're still going to try to contend in 2016, Dom. How good do you think are their chances of doing that, going into next season? I mean, if they make the right moves, once again, how good are their chances of contending at least for a wild card spot and truly contending, as they are kind of right now to some degree, but to a higher degree next year? Talk about that.
Listen, Cabby's coming back. They have a good core in the lineup. JD looks like a guy that's going to be here steady, still arbitration eligible. Probably going to bump his salary up to $10 million. V-Mart will be his protector, Cabby's protector next year. The lineup looks good. Pitching will be better.
It should be if they make the right
moves.
Acquisition or two. Yep.
They're starting pitchers. Those young guys will get innings that'll help them develop fast.
And these three guys that we just talked about. Who's going to be in the rotation of those three guys next year? Can they all three be in the rotation? What do you think? I say two of them, right? It should be Boyd and Norris. I think two of the three because of
Norris.
That. At least now, how about Fulmer being in the rotation full time starting on opening day next year? What do you think about that potential, Dom?
I could see it. I could definitely see it. I could see Fulmer, Boyd, Norris, Sanchez, and Verlander be in the rotation.
Good enough to win in 2016 with that rotation in the American League Central, which could be even tougher next year. Maybe the Royals won't be as good, but the White Sox, when they make another move or two, they should be better. The Royals will still be there to some degree. The Twins have gotten better this year. Indians could be better next year.
I think the Tigers could add a right-handed arm via free agency next offseason. I think they could use another kick there.
That's what they have to, you think, to really contend next year. The Royals have made the move, right, to contend in 2015, getting Cueto. The Jays have 2 times, right, getting Price in a separate deal, and then another deal getting Tulowitzki. So they've gotten 2 great pieces. Tulowitzki's been on huge fire, right? And Price has been really good, too, for the Jays so far.
The last prospect, too, Sessa in that deal. So far at Toledo, 1 game. 0-1, 14.40 ERA, 8 home runs, more than 1 game, 2.200 whip, hits per 9, 16.2, strikeout to walk ratio 1.50, and his walk to 9 and walks per 9, 3.6. So Sessa hasn't been good. Jacoby Jones has been very good in the Soria deal. So far this year, he's at 14 homers, 69 driven in, 19 doubles. His splits in his last 7, 250 this week, 375 on base, 450 slugging, 825 OPS with a homer and 2 RBIs with a 323 batting average in August.
So maybe those 2 guys could be contributing next year too, right, for the Tigers' Major League squad. We'll see about that. But moving on from that now to the Jays, the Royals, these American League favorites, right? The top dogs, per se, in the American League. Who's really the best team, though, right now? I think the Jays, with those acquisitions of Price and Tulowitzki and how they've played since then, they've been on rapid fire. They can keep it up, I think, and catapult the Yankees for the American League East crown. So I think they're a better all-around team. And then once they get in, anything can happen. And I think when they get in, the Jays will make it all the way to the Fall Classic. Dom, your take. Who's the top dog in the American League right now?
Royals are the top dog.
I mean, record-wise, but now looking forward, I mean, based on how these teams have played in recent memory. But the Jays have been,
they're the AL
extremely
champions.
hot. Okay, but you have to dethrone them. I get that.
You
dethrone them first.
They got to be dethroned. They got to be the crown has to be taken away from them.
But they're the best team. I mean, regardless of that,
they're the favorites.
They're the favorites right now, better than everybody else.
Vegas tells you they're 9-2 odds to go to the World Series, win the World Series. They're 9-2 favorites.
But I'm saying now, talent level, ability, going forward. Is it the Royals? Better than the Jays? Better than the Yankees? Better than all those teams? Better than the Halos as well?
They have a better bullpen. Bullpen ERA, the Astros and the Royals are comparable. I think the Royals have a little bit better bullpen ERA. They're like 2.3, 1.2 in the AL. Jays, their bullpen lags behind a little bit on the Yankees as well. So I think KC, talent-wise, yeah, there's a lot of talent on each team. Young talent, too. You have guys, Donaldson's having an MVP year. Lorenzo Cain, guys, he was ALCS MVP last year. Young talent. Eric Hosmer, Mike Moustakas, 38 hits the left field this year. 275 batting average. George Springer, Jose Altuve, Carlos Correa, all those guys are at least 330 on base, OBP and above for all those guys. Young talent. Yankees, young talent. Dellin Betances. Yeah, there's talent everywhere.
Dom, your ALCS prediction right now, then. Who will it be?
I have the Astros and the Royals in the ALCS.
I have the Jays, and I think I'm going to have the Yankees. I'm going to say Jays and Yankees, American League East squads making it all the way to the ALCS to play for the right to play in the Fall Classic. So we'll see you then. I mean, to discuss all that, obviously, leading up to the playoffs.
You always got to be prepared for the element of surprise in the playoffs. And a team that can surprise are the Houston Astros.
The Stros are ready, good enough, but I think the Royals are still even better. And I don't really like the Royals this year going into the postseason. I think they have too much pressure on them, many expectations, and much more than last postseason, as they were the wild card going into the playoffs. This year, they're the division winner, the best team in the American League record-wise. A lot more pressure, and for me, they're not going to deal with it as well in the postseason.
I don't think
so I see them losing. And Ned Yost isn't going to help out, by the way, this year. I think he's going to hurt them even more than he did last year. When, remember, they almost lost in that wild card game because of his lack of usage of his pen arms. Almost messed that game up for the Royals last year against the Athletics. So for me, I've got Yanks and Jays, which could always change as we go from show to show. Next week, it could be two different teams, right? That's how it is in baseball. That's really how it is.
Yeah, so in the first round, the matchup, if the Royals maintain the best record in the American League, they would face the Blue Jays or the Yankees, a team the second wild card. And the Angels would face the Astros.
And we'll talk about on future episodes the Halo Stros. Who's better in the American League West? Who is going to hold on? Stros up right now, barely on the Halos. We'll talk about that and more playoff odds and stuff going forward on this podcast, Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company. And for this edition, that is all she wrote. For Dom Chirco, John Macaroon of Doc and Jock, and for DetroitSportsNation.com for hosting us, and Detroit Sports Podcast, the podcast network. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a great week, and talk to you once again next week. Goodbye.